Hello everyone, welcome back to Exponential Awareness. I'll cover a couple topics here. So apparently Turkey's president Erdogan is calling for Islamic countries to unite against Israel, and this just came out in the past day. So I don't recall if I showed this on previous videos, but if you make a line from Finland down around Belarus, around the current war front here in Ukraine, and just keep going down, you see a split in the map all the way down to this point. It's a pretty even line all the way up, with the exception of Belarus, where it bulges out. So what I'm getting at with this is the U.S. is currently, and NATO is currently providing a lot of supplies to Ukraine. The U.S. had been, I'm not sure if they still are, providing a lot of support to Israel. And the U.S. is positioning a lot of its forces around this geographical region within the past month. A lot of assets moving into the area. If you follow any other OSINT, open source intelligence channels, you will have heard that by now. Simultaneously down here we have the Houthis still attacking ships, many ships, which has disrupted global shipping. And if we move over here to the east, we have the first island chain from Japan down through the Philippines, through Taiwan, through the Philippines. And we see Russia's President Putin has been making stops in all these areas. So we see a battlefront being prepared here, or has been prepared and is still being built by the U.S. The U.S. is talking about building forward repair hubs in these areas for military equipment, while Russia and China are building up an alliance in this area. So you have a line here and a line forming here. And now we have Turkey calling for all Islamic countries, Sunni and Shia, to unite against Israel. Now, the interesting point here is Turkey is part of NATO. Israel is not part of NATO. Turkey calling for an Islamic alliance against Israel. If Israel engages Turkey, then NATO could individually, decided individually by each country of NATO, could come to the aid of Turkey against Israel. But we also know that Israel, even though they're not part of NATO, is considered a very significant strategic alliance in a very strategic partnership with the United States. Israel acts as a forward operating base of sorts for the United States, a land-based aircraft carrier, if you will. Also a place in which we can send government agencies, federal government agencies, as a location of general stability and peace in the area in which to launch covert operations against other countries. Israel is a strategic partner of the United States, who is part of NATO. Turkey is part of NATO. Turkey doing this creates a very interesting situation in the world, because Turkey is very much not aligned with the rest of NATO's policies. In fact, they appear to be completely opposed to many of NATO's policies, but yet are a part of NATO. So this begs the question, is there a coming event where Turkey gets removed from NATO? And would that then spark them to form and be a part of this Islamic version of NATO against Israel, and thus propelling another war into this area? Only time will tell, but that is the facts of the matter right now. On another topic, we had the U.S. steal the president of Venezuela's version of Air Force One. Now, that is unprecedented and goes against internationalized norms of conduct between countries. And here's the question. Let's say Venezuela were to decide to do some sort of retaliatory attack against shipping platforms in the water here. Would that then allow and open up the door for more U.S. activity against Venezuela, who has the most oil reserves in the world, in the ground? If you look at the United States history regarding oil, we know this story between Kuwait and Iraq. Strategic partnerships with other oil countries, producing countries here in the Middle East. And there's a long-running joke of a country declaring that they have found oil and the U.S. going to liberate them and give them democracy via force. That is a joke because it is based on true events. Jokes are not funny if they're not based in some sort of truth somewhere along the lines. So we have that. Simultaneously, we have Venezuela gang, Tren de Aragua, I believe they're called, TDA, setting up multiple forward operating bases in the United States. We've heard a lot about Colorado in the past few months, as well as Chicago in the past week, and a growing presence around the United States. Is there a possibility that TDA, who was an enemy of Venezuela and is now operating in the United States, they were at war with each other here, could they have struck some sort of deal and wiped the slate clean and formed a partnership in order to destabilize areas of the U.S., knowing the folks here won't do anything about it? There's a lot of very precarious situations evolving globally. Over here, Somalia, Somaliland, Ethiopia, Sudan, massive wars in these areas that go undercovered, but nonetheless are occurring right now. We have the Nile River, which is being dammed. I believe it's somewhere here in Ethiopia. Please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. I believe it flows here up through Sudan and Egypt. And currently, I believe Ethiopia is building a dam that would significantly change the Nile River, pardon me if I said Amazon River, the Nile River flooding plains, which they depend on for agriculture and many other economic means. So this whole area is becoming destabilized. Likewise, we see partnerships arising between different countries here, which seems like this whole area is getting ready to break out in war. We have a call for war here. We have active war here and alliances forming in this region. We have a lot of destabilization in this area as NATO countries have pulled out of here. It's left a power vacuum. And once again, turning into a very kinetic situation in that area as well. Likewise, South Africa seems to never cease from having kinetic events happening there. Similarly, this region is experiencing war, revolution, all sorts of destabilization as well. For the time being, this area is relatively stable. You see China encroaching on Malaysian waters and upset that Malaysia is exploring islands in its own territory and coming to conflict there. We have China and the Philippines coming head to head in multiple conflicts over the past several months. And obviously China and Taiwan. And this goes without saying, but I will. North Korea is always seems to be continuing to destabilize its region and push a kinetic position. And Russian President Vladimir Putin traveled to Mongolia and talks of partnerships there. We have Russia and Iran talking of partnerships. Historically, the Sunnis and Shias have been at war here. We have Turkey calling for them to put that aside for the time being to unite against Israel. So, in a macro sense, that's a big world view of what's happening right now. We have tyrannical events happening here. Oops. We have tyrannical events happening here, and people who say the wrong things being arrested and imprisoned. We have massive destabilization in this area due to non-natives, I shall say, to avoid censorship, coming in, and clashes there. We had Brazil. Ban X. We have the population growing in unrest there. And I think it goes undercovered, but all throughout the U.S., we have a lot of destabilization from homeless populations, from drug addict populations, and from, let's say, non-recent natives coming into this land and conducting destabilization behavior. Simultaneously, we have government officials of Mexico being kidnapped by cartels, 3 in the past year. So, globally, there is a massive struggle for power across multiple fronts. But if we drew lines across the biggest fronts, you'd see an interesting line down the map here of West versus East. And you'd see a line down the map here, largely of West versus East. To the point where Thailand now, who has been a strategic U.S. ally for a number of years, is now talking about joining the BRICS alliance. We have Indian and Russian relations thawing exponentially, and a strengthening of Russian partnerships throughout this, I will say, economic war frontier for now, and an economic and actual traditional warfare front through this area. Anyways, that's my summary of kind of the macro picture of the world right now. I hope it's provided some insight. If you have any comments, anything to add, anything you'd like to see me discuss, please add it in the comments down below. And Russia continues to just be an entire mess. Until next time, stay exponentially aware.